Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. First message. Yep, Ervin, you are first today. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you guys. Welcome to Late Night Live number 48. Ooh. What's going on, Ervin? How are you doing today? I'll be completely honest, I have no real plan for today. It's just going to be a random writing session. If anybody has any sort of requests or similar to last week, I'm down to replicate some stuff from the business educator or Western Penman. If somebody wants to do something specific or like a specific signature or something like that. But I'm just chilling. I have been for the past 5 days. I was out of town hosting a dance event. So I've been backstage for like 13 hours a day for the past week or so. And I just got back this afternoon ready for a live, so my hand has not written for a while. I've been talking on a microphone a lot, but haven't been writing, so I'm excited. Here to learn how to set the focus on the Sony a6400. What's going on, Benny? What up, Ojaswini? Twin, to set the focus, there's multiple. I'm not the person that really to teach that. The way I do it, I have it set up so one of my I have my manual focus button on the back in the current video mode swaps between manual and autofocus. I use a manual zoom lens with autofocus, but most of the time for writing videos, I like to set my camera up at a manual focus. That's why I use this camera rather than my phone or things like that for Instagram Live. Because when my hand is moving around super quick, if I were to writing slower calligraphy, I wouldn't have that issue because the camera can kind of decide what to focus on. But when I move around so much, it has no idea what to focus on. So it goes back and forth between my hand and the paper all the time. Oh, sorry. You're here to remind me when I don't change the focus on my camera. Got you. Totally understand. Ignore everything that I just talked about when it comes to focusing on cameras. Ervin, the event was awesome. It was really, really great. We didn't really know what it was going to be like because of the sort of COVID times. There was a lot of protocols and stuff we had to follow. And I don't know if you guys saw my video on Instagram. I got to get my Ghostbusters on, and we would basically fumigate the stage after every group would come in and clear out the whole theater, and then the next group would come in. So it was a lot of like rules and hoops to jump through and things like that. But it turned out really, really, really good. Twin, that's Ojaswini is the original. That's her original job title. I think it was last week. She wasn't here when you reminded me, if I remember correctly. You guys will have to fight for that one, or maybe it'll be a race. All right, well, let's get to writing. Whew. Oh, my body is stiff today. Using Iron Gall again because I'm feeling in an Iron Golly mood. I'm going to be ordering this week some Walker's Iron Gall, Walker Penman Black, to give that a shot. I've never used it before, but I've heard great things. So I'll be ordering some of that very soon. You woke up on time today. Perfect. All right, well, let's get warmed up. I haven't even been sitting at a desk. I've been standing backstage all week. What up, Jake? How you doing, man? You guys have been... I apologize again. I got home today. I haven't dove into the Discord yet to catch up on all the conversations. It seems like it's been just a whole heck of a party in there. There's been a whole lot of talking going on, which is so cool. Maybe later tonight after I finish this live, I'll be able to open the app and and dive back in. I know there were some questions that people were asking that I have to answer. What up, Jesse? Twin doesn't want to step on toes. Well, Twin, if Ojaswini's not here, you can be the backup. Or if she's not paying attention, there you go. You guys can both take care of it. Have you guys been using? Has anybody used the video study room? Has that been? Has anybody jumped in there since last week? I gotta work on getting this shade that's right here. I want the thickest point to be like right here sometimes. I gotta start that shade just a little bit later, which is easier said than done, unfortunately. Right at the very bottom. Oh, what up, Ishmael? Long time no see. Is this your first time in a live? Welcome. You want me to teach you how to write the majuscule D? Oh, you know, we could attack that today. The capital D is a letter that gives me a lot of trouble. So let's do it. Let's attack it. And you know what? Let's do it the right way. I'm gonna get a book. We're gonna check the reference, and we're gonna replicate what the book says. Instead of pulling images out of my mind, we will follow a book. Oh, just Winnie. I agree. The D can definitely kind of be a devil. All right. What book do we want to follow? Let's go PZ Blozer. I don't remember which variation he uses in that one. We'll check this one, and maybe I'll grab Tamlin as well. See what Tamlin and PZ Blozer had to say about the capital D. That's alright. Sleeping is important. Alright, we'll put Tamlin to the side for now. We'll start with PZ Blozer. I have never really had a great handle on the capital D, unfortunately. I actually got to I made the artistic choice of when I write correspondence to people, instead of writing Dear So-and-so, I just write their name. Or I've gone back to the way the old penman used to write friend such and such. Because anything to not have to write the D in dear. It's too daunting. The Lupfer D. Ooh, I have to look up the Lupfer D. I don't remember that one specifically. A, B, C, D. Oh, see, PZ Blozer's D is beautiful. This is the variation of the D that I try to do. So this is the one we'll start off with. Who has time for sleep? That's how I feel. That's how things have been going this past week. I didn't sleep much this week. Okay, there we go. There's our D. So he starts with a horizontal entry oval that droops a little bit on the lower left side. I will likely make this horizontal entry oval actually horizontal rather than droopy, just because that's an aesthetic look that I prefer to a down one. And we come down here, slight compound curve on the bottom. And now one thing that gets me all the time is not going up high enough. I'll end up coming here and then cutting just across sooner, so you don't get this nice shape. And that shape is important because it gives you a better connection here to come up nice and high, down, so that this has dynamic in this middle bit. Otherwise, it ends up it draws attention. This is my opinion of it. When this line comes here, if it draws across too horizontally, it creates this triangle space inside here, and it can sort of wreck the look of the D. Yeah, if your name starts with a D, you gotta change your name. Or we'll call you like Sir or Madam or the blah blah blah. We'll give you a nickname. Every once in a while though, I can rock out a D really well. It's just not consistent. Similar to, I have issues with the capital O as well. They're similar inconsistencies. What up, Mohamed? Welcome. All right, and then he finishes, comes up here. I also get issues with this transition because at this point you're traveling sort of horizontal, and then you go to abruptly come up here rather than going nicely. We're used to, from a compound curve here, our hands, or at least my hand, is naturally will do a horizontal oval from there. So it has to transition quickly up to change, and then this point will often end up a little bit too far to the right, making the whole letter look a little too angled. So we come up here and then shade just like we do on a capital C, and then he has a large exit oval, horizontal. So my entry oval, I would like it to mimic the exit oval a little bit more than his does. I also really like this variation of the capital D. I rarely use it, but it's one that I need to work on. And well, it's interesting because this is how he breaks it down, but you don't put the compound, he doesn't put the compound curve on there. It is ever so slightly, but not really. Not like it is here. Seems like if you put an entry oval on it, you kind of take away the compound curve downstroke. Because yeah, all these ones down here are straight. So that's an interesting way to break that down. Doctor's gotta change their, yeah, their surgeon so-and-so. I would say the little loop, I don't think it's on the connective slant. I'm not gonna get a ruler out to measure it right now, but I'll get a ruler, but I'm not gonna measure the actual slant. If we look at the connective slant, like we're here, we'll assume that these samples are 52, somewhere between 52 and 48 in this book. But so the little oval is just off that, but I'm pretty sure it's still more vertical than the connective slant is. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's like an off oval, which is weird to me, and one thing that I guess aesthetically I've never really been a huge fan of that part of the capital D, which is why you'll often see me write it and I don't always do this, but I will often write it. If we have our horizontal oval, I will come down here, and when he has this slight curve at the bottom, to come up and then around to go out. I like to keep this, and I get this from Michael Sull, and I like it, coming down from there, keeping that little oval on our slant angle and dropping it a little below the baseline. And it doesn't have to drop below the baseline, you can keep it here too. But just because that off angle has always caught my eye a little bit. Because it's off angle, but I don't think it's connective slant. There are also other penmen who will come down and go much more almost flat. So they'll curve here and go there. So then that, like if it was written that way, that is likely much closer to connective slant. But I don't think it was ever written as a rule, or not to my knowledge anyways. If anybody finds something that says that, please send it my way or post it on the Discord, because I would love to read it. All right. Sorry, catching up on the chat. What's going on, Marilyn? James is here. What up, Lurker James? So that's just what I'm gonna call you from now on, James. Lurker James. Can you try Meg technique? Rotate the paper so that the shaded oval is parallel to the forearm. So the shaded oval, so if this would be our shaded oval, to there. Is that what you're saying? So I'm doing it, so I'm doing the D this way. If that's, I'm doing good, Marilyn. Thank you very much. Now, to me, I feel out of control doing that just because my push-pulls, that's an odd angle for me to do push-pulls. I like my push-pulls to be straight away from my body or slightly to the opposite angle. Like for me, a natural way to get, if I were to rotate the paper to do a capital D the best way, and most of you know I don't like rotating the paper very often, but if I were to, like this is my normal, this is where I'm set up right now. If I wanted to rotate the paper to get this shade feeling the most comfortable, I would rotate the paper like so. Because then the oval that I make naturally here with similar to like, that's then using kind of hinge movement, like when we do lowercase ascenders and descenders. This would be, again, for those, this is like the ideal angle for me to use for my movement at slant angle. So if I was doing the D this way, whoa, that's a really ugly shade. Got off the side of the paper, but that's the way that I would do that, I'm thinking. But yeah, Mehmet, exactly. That is the rotation that that Ishmael mentions. If I was doing like a capital stem or a capital S or a capital L or any of those shades, they can be more difficult at, like, as example, if we're here at my regular, the slant that I like to keep my page at, we can get those, but you can see the nib is traveling sideways quite a bit, so we have the potential of having a tough time in there. But if I rotate the paper the angle that Ishmael says, so I have that going along my forearm is along the slant line, then when I come down here, the stem shade is much more aligned with the angle of the nib. So it's kind of like, for me, lowercase ascenders are best this way, and the capital stem and continuing capital stems, like in the S, are better this way. So I try to train my arm to do, my paper angle is right smack dab in the middle of those two angles to minimize the difficulty and maximize the potential of doing everything in one stroke. And that is also, this is also the angle that my hand is best trained to do horizontal ovals. But definitely, if you're feeling nervous about, say, a capital S or something, rotating it in the paper slightly more to the left, rotating it counterclockwise, will give you a much easier time creating that capital stem. And like what I was doing at the very beginning, that'll help you also if you want to get that shade right on the bottom. It is much easier if you rotate the paper to the left or counterclockwise. And then alternatively, if you want to do, say, the D or the O, you could go the opposite direction, a little bit clockwise, so then your nib is going along right here. And that will alleviate often when people have O's and D's that are too angled. Which, like me, that is my big issue with the capital O and the capital D. So I'm going to go from just the downstroke. I'm going to ignore the entry oval for now. I like that. I like that way of thinking about it. We can't do it because of evolution. Our bone structure and muscle structure are different now. Oh, if only that were a real excuse that I could rely on. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure we have every ability and every possibility to get as good as the old penmen. We just don't do it. It's amazing if you just imagine how many hours a day they had a pen in their hands when it comes to, like, they were teaching and then their own work and then their home correspondence. Like, on a daily basis, they were at the desk writing just so much. And also, like, competitive writing, because it was their incomes, like, unlike a lot of us now, their incomes were completely reliant, especially the ones who were, like, teachers of penmanship and who were promoted as being, like, the best penmen. They needed to keep their work being really, really good. Just like actors and whatnot today need to be the best actors to get the best roles. That's what it basically was for penmen back in the day. So they had to work, they had to write all the time. And getting better was super important for their sustainability of their career. Whereas now, we get better because we want to get better, or because we're enjoying practicing. A lot of us, we want to get a lot better, but there's just a different driving force when it's your, like, livelihood is dependent on you getting better. There's a different mentality that goes into the practice. Like, I know I'm very guilty of, I practice sort of willy-nilly and fun, and you guys know that. Writing is a lot of playtime for me. Would I like to practice more dedicated and more serious? Yes. Should I? Yes. Will I? Hopefully, if I can convince myself to do that and make that change in myself. But it's just a little different. Playing a left-handed guitar. I have my buddy Stu in Vancouver used to do that. There are people who used to write upside down and backwards. I mean, there's a penman today, Diego. He writes with both hands and writes upside down and backwards. I used to. I don't know where those examples are. I used to write backwards and upside down, and I used to write with my left hand. Back when I was first getting into penmanship, the best I could ever do was cursive, going upside down with my left hand, upside down with my right hand, and backwards with my left hand at the same time, because it's like a mirror image. Everything can always go as if it's just mirrored right in the middle, so it's easy for the brain to be able to connect those dots. I think anytime you see the videos of people drawing pictures, both hands at the same time, but the hands are mirroring each other, it's a lot easier than we think. If you take, like, body dynamics and whatnot in mind. If you think about it too much, then it's difficult, because you're thinking about trying to do the same thing. But if you just trust your body and do things, it's easy to get the left hand. If you're right hand dominant, it's relatively easy to get the left hand to follow. That's how I teach in dance, for example. Like in the 1970s dance form locking, there's kids have to do wrist rolls when they're learning how to lock. And in a wrist roll, they can get it relatively easily with the right hand, but something about the rotation and just the move of when the elbow comes out and everything feels awkward when you're first getting started with the left hand. But when you teach it like magic, if you do both at the same time, everybody can do that. So you use the left side to teach the right side, basically. Fancy, fun little body dynamic connecting synapse things. Yeah, I used to be very fascinated with right hand, left hand writing. I went left-handed for it wasn't a year, but maybe like half a year, I think. I changed my computer mouse, I changed everything, and I went left-handed for a long time just to get used to it, to see what it was like. And it was neat. See, I always end up getting too far to the right. From here, not transitioning quick enough, up and out, right there. Like PZ Blozer has it in his book. Maybe one day when things like the Matrix exist, we can just download penmanship and be able to write like Neo. Neo learned Kung Fu and we could all of a sudden be chilling in a bed and wake up. I can write like A.D. Taylor. How fun would that be? Or, I have the skill of Madaraz. We just teach ourselves that. Just download Madaraz's skill. That would be pretty awesome. Did we do left-hand writing in a live? I can't remember. I've always been tempted to do to go through a business penmanship course with my left hand. This point right here, from this point to this point, making that quick transition is the part that I lose. Yeah, I've always wanted to, I mean, there's no real reason to do it, which is why I haven't done it. It's just like it would be a fun thing. There's many more things I should probably do. But going through a course in business penmanship with my left hand would be interesting. Just as I figure so many people come to me and say they can't do it, or their grip is no good, or they have bad habits. If I can go through the steps and my left hand learns it, then it kind of helps iron out those doubts if somebody wants to start fresh with their dominant hand. Oh yeah, we've done a lot of ridiculous things on these lives. Now that we've done 48 of them, or we've done 47 and we're on the 48th. Let's just dive in. Let's start adding a shade to this guy. Not too shabby. Not very smooth. You'll notice my own habit from the way I said earlier how I keep this on the slant line. It is, if I want to do a capital D like in PZ Blozer's book, I have to get used to making this getting a little more space. And this, I honestly feel weird when I try to get that slight curve, because it's interesting. Well, yeah, that slight angle feels wrong because it's not horizontal and it's not 52. Just feels wrong. Let's grab a glide sheet so my fingers aren't catching on the edge of the paper here. 50. Oh, I guess we should do something special for the 50th anniversary, huh? For our 50th Late Night Live? Did I understand it? I think I did. I don't honestly remember what he talked about now. I mean, a lot of the confusing stuff when he talks about in the hand, you correct me if I'm wrong, are you referring to the part where he describes like the pinky not moving and that type of breakdown? I don't honestly spend a ton of attention on when they get into really specific things like that, just because, I mean, it's good, it's really good info and I've read it, but I like to do things from a feeling standpoint, doing it, seeing how it looks, feeling how it feels, and then adapting it that way. And that's just the dancer in me. Oh, and he also has, Zaner has the books. Yeah, he has, it's one of his arm movement writing books. It's hardcore. It's like the full shoulder blade, like it's the bones, instead of just, sometimes they just use lines. Other times they would draw an arm. But he has one book that has, it draws the shoulder blade and the bones. So it's a skeleton in the proper writing position. I'm assuming that's where he probably goes into anatomy and whatnot quite a bit. Twerk for 50th. Oh my goodness. You guys are ridiculous. Probably not gonna twerk for the 50th video. We should do a piece. I should do like a large scale something. Or maybe a guest. Maybe I should do, we did Brian. Maybe I gotta do guests more often now. Oh, too far to the left. Large scale T. 50th. We could do a giant alphabet for 50th. I could get one of my beak nibs and try to do like each letter like 2 or 3 inches. Get a big sheet of paper and see if I can do like a giant Mondo alphabet in movement writing. That could be fun. We could have Brian on again. He's been doing a lot of really amazing work lately. I think I want to try to do it. I'm trying to figure out setting up Zoom. I've been watching some artists who do live streams. There's a group of them they have a show called Drawfee on YouTube, and they have it set up so they have their small like little thumbnail cameras, and then when one person's writing, it can, like whoever's running the stream selects it so they're full screen, so that it's sort of like me and Brian or me and James or me and whoever's on here with me can sort of take turns back and forth showing our top-down views and writing. So I'm figuring that out. Oh, I don't know if I'll do that for 50th, but we definitely have to have we got to get into the bird series or into the offhand flourishing world. I don't do a lot of offhand flourishing, so I'm not very good at it at the moment. Do it, James. Screen capture or screenshot every one of his stories and post it on a Instagram account. See, perfect example of I get my oval too slanted and I travel too far to the right. Every time. You should do that, James. Or just everybody hassle Brian so that he starts posting stuff on his feed more often. Too close to the left. Darn it. That was a decent one. There we go. We'll just hack his account. That works. That's a thing that you can apparently pay people to do these days. Pretty common. But yeah, if I can get the Zoom thing figured out, then it can almost be like panel discussion type of things. I could have one person, multiple people. I know when David Grimes was in here, he talked about doing one. We could do an engrosser script one. Whoa! Out to lunch. Crazy ugly ovals. I'll raise my chin a little bit. Maybe that'll be better? We'll find out. All right, that sounds good to me, Marilyn. Is there like a special software I need? Because it'll go through OBS. It'll go through the same broadcasting software I use now. It's just, I know the audio takes some figuring out. And most people talk about using Skype and stuff, but I feel like Zoom can be really good. Ooh. Yep, we can do that. That's a good idea too. I'll wear a suit. That's coming up. That's in 2 weeks. That's pretty soon. Deal. Tell you what, Ishmael. James will be the next guest on the Late Night Lives. How's that sound, James? Done. I'm roping you into it. James will be the next guest. So now you're warned, James. You have from now till whenever I decide to make that a thing to get your camera situation set up so you're ready. There we go. It's done. It's been put out into the universe. We can't take it back now. That one was relatively decent. Your secret finger movement. There's nothing wrong with finger movement. We all use it, be it subconscious or not. Everybody does it. What up, Anil? Welcome. Thank you very much. Gotta try to shorten up that shade a little bit. That's a little bit better, the idea. Nice and short. Cut it off before the transition or before the connection. Oh, it's nice to have you here, man. What up, Jagruti? How's it going? Welcome. One thing that also just popped in my mind that I never really thought of before, but it would be kind of fun to do a live that is just going through some of the old scrapbooks. I know they're all available. They're all available on the internet. But it would be neat to do something, a format like this. I wouldn't want to do it alone. I think it'd be more fun having multiple people talking about it. So I could have like James, Brian, people on with me, and I would screen share going through like a PDF or a folder on the computer of some of the old scrapbooks, and we could live chat and discuss about each of the pieces, so there wouldn't be any writing at all. But I think that would be really good. I mean, that's basically what we do at IAMPIC when we go through them. We talk about them with, oh, did you see that? Because it's so easy when you look at a piece to get distracted by one piece of it and not see the whole thing. So that would be, I want to do that. We won't do that for the 50th, but I'm going to put that in the idea pool because that would be fun. Well, enjoy your lurking, James, and enjoy your dishes. James plays all the instruments. I gotta get back to my piano practice. I finally cleaned my room before I left last week, or cleaned my living room. So there's space at the piano now. I have to play it. I want to learn Chaplin's sheet music. Two-angled. James, how many instruments do you play? He might already be looking. He might not answer that question, but I'll ask anyways. Anybody else play any instruments? Just me decked out in all leather for the 50th. I think I'll wear a suit for the 50th. I think I like that idea. Maybe I'll make a, can I make a tie? Maybe I'll make a custom bow tie for the 50th episode. Oh, I gotta be careful what I say. I'm gonna rope myself into needing to do a lot of things for this episode. I don't even know what date that is. I don't even know if I'm gonna be available. Pretty sure I'm always available, but you never know. Guitar, nice. I tried to learn the guitar once. It was not, I enjoyed it, but didn't do too great. Oh, see, here's where when you finish and you give up too early, you end up with exit ovals like that instead of proper ovals. Gotta finish your follow through. From start to finish, gotta have the nice fluid movement and shape. That's better. A little too angled, but smoothest ovals we've had yet today. Oh, that sounds lovely. Drums. Drums are fun. In high school I wanted to play drums. I used to go and mess around at my friend's place when he had practice. Thanks, Ishmael. Okay, I'm going to try to make that lower loop a little bit bigger. I gotta give it more space. And you notice how I mentioned in the book how this compound curve has to be abrupt, and mine is very long. Rather than coming up high here and then going, it has to come all the way back down to the baseline. And I don't get that all the time. The abrupt curves are something that the old school penmen back in the day were much better at than it seems like we are today. Even like the like going into a stem, we would do these. They would have like, this is even more abrupt than you see most of the stuff. Like how I wrote for a long time was like super subtle compound curve here, whereas some of the old penmen, those two stems came out quite nice. John Co, I play a mean speaker. I like that. That's good. Yeah, like a lot of the old specimens are so like they compound in such a short amount of space and so much. That's extreme example, but ugh, those are ugly ovals. Decent shade, but they were very, very abrupt. Ishmael, it sounds like you rotate the paper a lot. There's so many things that are easier if you rotate the paper, but I just don't want to do it. I want to write at the same angle. The only time I'll rotate the paper is, like, obviously if I was doing offhand flourishing, I would definitely rotate the paper. Or sometimes if I want a piece or a letter to come out really, really like as good as possible, I'll rotate clockwise to get my ascender strokes. But I don't like to rotate for the capitals, and it's primarily because the shades will often come out quite a bit nicer, or not necessarily nicer, but maybe a little more consistent. But what gets me is if I look at my own writing, like pieces of my writing, I should make an example of this to show people, but if I look at my own writing, the accent ovals, like the entry and the exit ovals, and if I'm flourishing off a letter, those accent movements and shapes look different to me when I have my paper my standard way and when I rotate it. And I dislike that, because the flourishes are not often planned, and they're not, unlike the letter forms, which we have really clear images of in our mind, and how all the books say, like, to execute something really well, you have to have a vision of it in your mind. But it's a really cool feeling when you're flourishing, a finished, when the letter's done, and you flourish, and you can just fill space. A lot of that is offhand and happens fast, and you don't plan it all the time. So it's free, and when I rotate the paper, because it's still free, but all the ovals will be they're like a slightly different axis, or they're a little bit longer, or they're just not the same. And since that's like the accompanying stuff, I like that all to sort of match each other. Hello, Mom. You've been so busy fancy writing. You're doing fancy writing? I didn't know you did fancy writing. All right, back to the capital D. Coming for my job. That's all right. That's allowed. Too low. Too far to the left. Or to the right, I mean. That's the cool, I mean, one of the coolest things about penmanship, Ishmael, is, well, and the techniques is, we all do what works for us. Yeah, we all have our own process, and we should I want everybody to join the live one day. Ishmael, are you on the Discord? I apologize if you're on there. You're on there, I'm pretty sure. You should utilize the live study room. Anybody who's in here right now, if you haven't used the live study room, you should. I haven't used it in the past week, but I want to get more people jumping in there and using it to practice together. Ha! We could do one day if I get the Zoom thing figured out. It could be like a call-in show. I could have I could bring in a guest. They could ask a question, or we could go over something specific, and then they could leave, and then we'll bring in somebody else. Be like a whole bunch of guests. Yeah, everybody that comes in the chat, we could have a community day one day. That would be fun. Those don't necessarily have to be live. They could just be fun community. I guess the issue with Zoom, I don't have a professional account. That's a snag. So I would get cut off after 40 minutes, which is not a good thing. Shoot, that one was good except for the shade. Ha! Agreed. There are too many social media platforms. Anil, as far as speed, so you can break up the capital D into two movements. If you're utilizing movement writing, the first would be your exit or your entry oval, and then the second movement is the downstroke, the compound curve, and the reverse oval. That one with the shade. So you can break it down that way. I wouldn't stop anywhere in this one just because it's all smooth curved lines. There's no real natural places to stop. So if you're asking about speed specifically, for me, from this point to this point, I like to get as smooth of a flow as possible, and everybody's sort of optimum movement speed is going to be different. For me, I find that like this oval here is a good example. Like that is relatively decent shaped oval, but what is best about it is the hairlines are super fine and there are no shape changes. As an opposite example, if we look at this one, we see we have this little kink sort of up here, and we have our ending, but it's sort of going to this point on this side. So the whole thing isn't stretched out. Same with this one here. The shape could be a little bit higher on this upper left side. So usually if I'm seeing those deformations in an oval, I would speed up slightly, because when you speed up slightly, you don't have your hand doesn't have the time to get those waving things in. So as example, if I go slow, I could get you can get a weird shape, or if you go fast, like it's quite hard to, like an oval, our bodies are sort of designed to just do that. So if you go quite quickly, that's not a great example, but if you go really fast, it's going to smooth out some of those kinks. So a little bit of speed smooths out your sorry, computer gave me a notification. A little bit of speed smooths out your shaky lines, and then a little bit more speed smooths out your shapes. At least the way I see it. So then what you try to do, I go really quickly and then I try to slowly slow down till I get to the point where I'm going slow enough to have smooth lines and nice smooth shapes, but fast enough that I get smooth lines and smooth shapes, but slow enough that I can still control things, or that I can ideally make changes on the fly and things like that, because I like doing that when I'm writing. I don't like to rely on autopilot, and if I want to, in the middle of a letter, if my brain says, make it a double shade, I like to have the ability to just do that. Easier said than done sometimes, but so there's like a perfect speed. So what the speed that I'm kind of using today, we'll see, I'm going slower than I would than like really fast writing, but I'm trying to get still fast enough to get smooth lines. And then when I do this part, I'm going slow enough that I can focus on those shapes as I'm going. Otherwise, like if I go faster, my lines will get better, but I won't have this compound curve, the shape that I want. My oval down here will be too small, which is what I sort of default to. I naturally will go faster. So I'm now training myself to slow down and control without losing the shape and smoothness of my fast writing, if that makes sense. It's like, well, here's an analogy. If you take riding a bicycle. If you ride a bicycle really, really, really slow, it's really hard to maintain your balance. Your bike is going to be going, it's going to be tipping. Even if you're staying up, you're going to have to be using your body, and it's going to be almost falling pretty much all the time. But if you ride your bike really fast, you're going to be in a perfectly smooth line, and there's going to be no shakes or loss of balance, but you might get out of control. Like you might hit a rock or something like that and then go flying off your bike and die. So that's extreme. But the chances of a failure are high because you're going out of control fast. So what I'm trying to work on is going slow enough, if I'm going super slow and I'm shaky, just going fast enough so the shakes go away, so that I'm nice and smooth. And then that way, if there's a rock or if a problem comes, I can swerve and dodge it and fix it without going crazy out of control. So too fast is crazy out of control. Too slow is super wobbly. So it's about finding that middle point, which is going to be different for everybody. When it comes to movement writing in general, I recommend going too fast first. Because especially if people are used to writing slowly, one of the hardest things is relinquishing control to be able to go nice and quick. Most people want to control it, which naturally makes them slow down. Which, when you try to control it, you slow down, your muscles tense, and it ruins your lines. So I recommend that people let go of that and they go out of control fast till they get comfortable with out of control fast. And that's like what Tamblyn talks about in his book. They get a good image of what it looks like, and then they write out of control fast until that feels comfortable. And then as they try to get control of the forms, control in the way that it looks, they slowly slow down. So you're going crazy fast on your bicycle, and you're slowly gonna slow down. But you're conscious of, if you go too slow, you get a wobble, so you speed up a little bit. And then if you slow down again, you get a wobble, so you speed up a little bit. So ideally, you always want to be in that range. And then there's keeping the same speed during shades is another question. Some people like to slow down quite a bit when they put in their shades. I slow down a little bit, but, this might be hard to believe because you can see me slow down, but there is no conscious slowing down. In my brain, in my mind, I'm trying to do my letter as one smooth, flowing thing. Like if I was doing this capital D, I would want to do the whole thing all the same speed. I want to do it all nice and smooth and the same. sometimes because of tension and stress will speed up certain parts, and that's what often happens on exit ovals, which they can get kind of messed up because we clock out at the end and don't finish the form. But I like the idea of that nice, flowy, smooth, always the same. And then if it changes, it's more of a subconscious little change that's happening. Like for a capital stem, for example, if we're doing something like this, there's often, instead of, we want it to be nice and smooth, but there might end up being just like a slight as we go into the shade. But a sudden change in speed, yeah, exactly, Ishmael. It distorts shape, and the biggest thing, I can see it. When I look at someone's work, I can tell if they slow down before their shades, because there's a transition moment when they change speeds. If somebody can smoothly change speeds without me seeing it, that is awesome, and that is an incredible skill, and some people can do it. Brian, for example, he changes speeds from time to time, and they're not always noticeable. So there are ways to change speeds, and like I said, I subconsciously change speeds, but my shade speed is still fast enough that it's still a movement speed. So I'm going from, on a bike, I'm going from relatively fast, slowing down a little bit. I'm not slowing down to the point where I get shaky. So it's not like a transition, it's not fast and then slow, it's like, it's slowing. If you understand video terms, speed ramping, for example, that's sort of what you're trying to do so that you can't see that transition in tempo. John, most people do. It's a very common thing, and it's not a wrong thing. I don't like that I can see it when it happens, especially and in stem shades. You run the risk, if you go slow out of a shade, you run the risk of there you can get jagged lines on the bottom or getting paper fibers. So if you are going to slow down, I always tell people that they should be accelerating out of the shade so that their tines aren't collecting paper as they're going slow out of the shade. They're lifting as they're going out. So the tines don't have time to collect and gather those fibers. You'll always have the potential of getting some fibers in your nib, but ideally, if you can get that nice flowing pull at the end of a shade, you can alleviate that most of the time. That was a lot of explanation. I hope some of that made sense. If it didn't, I apologize, and thank you for hanging out while I ramble about stuff. But speed is it's a dangerous topic because I think it's misunderstood a lot of the time with fast writing, slow writing, and things like that. And everybody's processes are going to be different. But I think I've never really thought of that bicycle analogy before, and that I think makes a lot of sense. One thing that I've been doing lately, what up, David Grimes? One thing that I've been trying to do lately, I've always, since the beginning of my penmanship journey, will do like air ovals like so, and then I stop, and then I'll create a line specifically for like horizontal entry ovals. I don't usually make them on the move. I will start moving before I drop down, but I'm trying to get in the habit of actually creating it like fully on the move from an oval. I mean, some nibs can just be problematic, but right on. Working on the capital D. The shape of just that, the important oval on that one was off, but the flow of the hairlines was quite nice. What do you got going on this afternoon or this evening, Mr. Grimes? That's the idea. Hello, lamb. It looks like a loading screen. When I do this, I should make a loading screen doing... That's what the little loading animation on my website should be. I should animate that. Whoa, that was an ugly entry over. Wow. Right on. Little bit of broad pen. Sounds like a great way to wind down. I'm a little nervous for tomorrow. My to-do list is very daunting tomorrow because I've been out of town for the past 5 days working. I'm now back and I have to catch up on a whole lot of stuff. Plus there's a bunch of stuff going on this week that I have to be sure I'm prepared for. So tonight is my escapism. Escaping into the world of capital D's before I have to face the reality of being an adult and a professional and all that stuff I'm not good at. Yeah, the 303s can be pretty... They take some taming. But the cool thing about a scratchy 303 is if you can tame it, it makes most other nibs will feel relatively easy to use afterwards. Too close. Yeah, not long travel, not far travel. I was just in Kelowna, about 4 hours away. We were running a super socially distant, super COVID procedure dance competition. So I was filling my role as Mike on the mic, the backstage manager slash on stage MC for the event. A weekend of talking into a microphone, basically having fun, cracking jokes. Kids today do not like my jokes very much, which is fine because they're super like dad jokes and not very good, but kind of what's fun about the dance competitions. Too short. That needs to come wider and that needs to go in. Why is that shape so bizarre? Oh, that's nice. I mean, it seems like, yeah, in the States, it seems like, I mean, all my LA friends are life back to normal. People are in dance rehearsals, people are traveling, doing conventions. Everything seems pretty normal. We're a little behind in that regard here. I get, well, hopefully in this arm, if they let me choose, hopefully they do. I get my shot on Friday, actually. What's today? Tuesday. On Friday, I get my first shot of, I don't know which one, but that's when my appointment is. That's my birthday present this year. Birthday Thursday. getting stabbed with a metal needle on Friday. Woo! Yeah, I was like, I don't really need this one. It doesn't do anything, but this one's kind of important. So, left arm, please. And it's summer, so not even just writing. I need it for disc golf. I need it for everything. My right arm is important this time of year. Ah, thank you very much, Miss Marilyn. It's gonna be a pretty chill birthday, I think. Oh, wow, really? I didn't know that. That's intense. You shouldn't be doing parkour off ladders, David. You're not a young guy anymore. Ah, that makes sense. I guess if your wrist is broken, you can't move it too much. Yeah, get that arm movement writing practice going. That's perfect. It's a perfect excuse to not use finger and wrist movement. Maybe that's how they all got so good in the Zenarian. They just broke their hands so they could only practice one way. It would be cool to... Wait, so are you in a cast, David? If you're in a cast, you need to film a video doing something... Like, I just want a cast on my hand now to prove to people that you don't have to use your fingers and stuff like that. Like, cast all this in cement and let me just do some writing. Yeah, I signed the waiver. Exactly. Oh, man. Oh, what up, Ashok? How's it going? Yeah, they walk around to each desk. But I mean, if you're not using finger movement, it's when people have trouble with the training. It's like, Mr. Blozer, I'm having a really hard time. It feels like my fingers and my wrist just naturally come to play. I don't think I can do just whole arm movement without finger movement. And he goes, oh, don't worry. We have a technique just for you. Crunch. No, Mom, not seriously. It would be funny, though. That is extremely extreme. That is far too extreme. Please don't do that. Well, obviously don't do that. Nobody do that. That's terrible. But the idea of it is kind of funny. Because I do kind of like the idea of nothing pain related, but I would love to put my hand in something that makes it impossible to move, or to actually, like, I don't know, cast it in, what is that, plaster of Paris or something like that, so it can't move but that it can hold a pen. I would have to give a little bit of movement for the fingers so that I can grip. That's the only important part. So I can grip it. And then to write with it, because so many people have trouble. But, like I said earlier, when James was chatting in here, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of finger movement. A little bit of finger, I mean, all the OP legends used it. All the ornamental penmanship masters used it, so... The key is just making sure it's not excessive and it's not affecting the end result. Oh, that shade. Yeah, I could get I guess there's those like 3D printed braces and casts and stuff now. Get one of those, put it on. Hey, Claire. Well, it's just like the when students in my classes don't believe, because I tell people that my shade isn't made by pressing down with the index finger. I say it's made with gripping the whole pen and with my arm going down. People don't believe that. So then you grip the pen like this and do the same piece of writing, and it's like it's an eye-opener for people, because they assume that, I mean, it's easy to assume that you're just pressing down with your index finger, because the downward force is what creates the shade. But that is not the way that I do it anyways. I'm certain that's the way some people do it, but that is not where my shade comes from. It kind of looks like it sometimes, but so that's why I have to do that demonstration in classes quite often. No good shade. Yeah, he's here. He's in Ashok. He's in lurker mode at the moment. I think he's doing dishes and practicing the saxophone right now. But he's here. He's in lurker James lurker mode. Is movement writing arm movement? Good question, John. John, you're here all the time, and I need to ask: do you prefer John or Giancarlo? I know the previous weeks I've always defaulted to calling you Giancarlo just because that's how I read your name. But please tell me if you prefer John or Giancarlo, and I will try to remember. Movement writing, is movement writing arm movement? Yes, so movement writing refers to, I guess it's, no. Movement writing refers to writing that is done at a speed that is fast enough that you can get smooth, flowy hairlines. So your movement is coming, it's being propelled primarily from your larger muscles, from your back and your shoulders and things like that. So it's the quicker writing. The movement doesn't necessarily mean speed, but it does mean that it's going fast enough that it's being written and not drawn. Now with arm movement, there are it can be broken down a lot deeper, but there's essentially two styles of movement writing. You have whole arm movement and forearm movement. In between that, there's also combination movement and finger movement and stuff like that. But I usually break it down just into those two. There's whole arm movement, where the forearm, this fleshy muscle right here, is raised off of the table. So the only thing touching the table is the very end, I use the side of the bottom knuckle on my pinky finger. That's the only thing on the table. So I am moving all around, and there's no restriction here at all. So you have your chair high enough that you can sit in that position without your shoulders shrugging and things like that. And you can do all your writing free movement all the way around, which can be difficult to control, but that is whole arm movement. And then when people talk about forearm movement, that is when you drop this fleshy forearm onto the table. So then your movement is propelled from the exact same way. Usually your speed is the exact same as it would be with whole arm movement, but you drop this forearm, so now I have that as an anchor. So everything is using that fleshy muscle. Now where that can be difficult, or not difficult, but where it has its limitations, is the flexibility of everybody's forearm is slightly different. So when my forearm is going around in a circle like this, if I'm writing and I hit the extent of that circle, John would be nice. Okay, cool. If I hit the extent of that range, because I can only roll my arm so much, because you don't want to roll your whole arm, so you're just stretching the skin pretty much. I have a limit, and my personal one is about 3 inches or so, give or take. Some penmen, like Brian I Cursive, he has a larger range in forearm movement than I do. I need to work on expanding that limitation for myself. So forearm movement is when that's dropped down and you're using your forearm, but the movement itself is the same. The movement is coming from the upper arm, and it's being from your back and your shoulder and whatnot. You're just using your forearm as an anchor, so you have a little bit more control. And then from there you can use combination movement, where you start to incorporate a little bit of wrist, just like a little bit. The wrist can come into play a little bit, For pure just forearm movement, the wrists and the fingers don't do anything. They stay like from here down. This is just like concrete, with the exception of gripping the pen so that it doesn't fall out of your hand when you're writing. Get a fleshier arm. Yeah, I guess I gotta eat some bad food. I don't know. Can I go somewhere and get my skin stretched out so it's stretchier? I don't know. I don't have stretchy arm skin. I don't know what that means. Is that a good thing? Maybe that's healthy. I don't know. I want stretchy arm skin. I'm gonna tell that to my doctor. I'm gonna go into a clinic and tell them that I want stretchy arm skin. And there's gotta be a technique or exercises I can do to do that. Skin stretching exercises. I'm probably not a good idea. Probably will be disappointed when I get older if I have super stretchy arm skin. But anyways, that's the breakdown of the movement writing. Combination movement is just when a little bit of finger and a little bit of wrist are added into the movement. But it's the same thing. The primary movement of the whole thing comes from the back and the shoulder and whatnot. That's what propels everything in all of the movement writings. Good question. Sorry, that was potentially a little bit. That was a long-winded answer to your question. Yeah, you gotta eat some food to gain some forearm stretch. But like, a lot of the penmen were tiny. Like Lupfer was a tiny guy. He was very skinny. You see, Dr. Joe has images up of a wristwatch that he wore that is like super tiny. So, and they had what I wouldn't give for a video of those guys writing. Just like a 10-second clip would teach me so much and would answer countless questions that I have about their writing and their movement and how they do what they do. But unfortunately, that doesn't exist. Or if it does, we don't know where it is. There was a video teaching series that did exist, that was advertised in the Business Educator back in the day on Reels, and I like to think that it exists in a basement somewhere in a university or a school. I have tried to locate one to no avail. Oh, there's a lunar eclipse. I didn't know that. All right, well, good night, Mom. Thanks for hanging out. Oh yeah, I'm wearing my watch today. I guess that's because I was wearing it all week. I just got used to having it on. I was wearing a mala on my wrist as well, but now I can't wear it when I write, so I took it off a little earlier. Too short. Nice shape, though. Decent. I gotta Google and see what time I gotta wake up or what I gotta do to see the lunar eclipse. I didn't know that was right now. I don't think I've ever... No, that's a lie. I've seen a lunar eclipse before. But I want to see it. If I can in Vancouver. $5 a.m. in Alberta, okay. So 6 a.m. for me. That's true. His arm length, he did have long arms. I just don't understand how to get more. I just have to practice it. I just have to. Maybe this is just the exercise I have to do. Just roll my arm on a table to chill out the forearm. Brian has a series of exercises that he told me about probably years ago now that I should do to expand my range, because I don't have a very large range when I'm using movement writing. Or sorry, when I'm using forearm movement writing. I wish I could just do everything with whole arm. I used to. When I got into movement writing, I used to do everything with whole arm movement. But as you can see there, ovals get crazy. I don't have the control. Well, I would assume it has a lot to do with it. Maybe I'll do maybe I'll document it. Maybe I will attempt some forearm stretching, but do I'll make notes of examples of the work and of the exercises that I'm doing and see. Because I've never actually checked if my range has ever expanded. Maybe I have to log the water I drink and the forearm exercises I use to see if I can actually expand. Because it's guaranteed possible. I don't believe there's a limit that I don't feel like there's a limit or you're born with the ability to stretch your forearm in an oval. No, that's not a thing. Guaranteed it has to be stretchable. What are you doing? You're stretching my forearm. Wow, my forearm skin. I can roll over on the flappy bit. That just sounds wrong. Do you go to the gym? Nah, I just stretch my forearm skin. What? Don't worry about it. You wouldn't understand. But because of all the signature writing and stuff that I do, having a bigger range would be so amazing. Because unlike Brian, I don't like stopping. I stop as little as I can. Moments like I mentioned earlier on the capital D, I will sometimes stop in this one spot, but I don't like stopping, especially if it's on a curved stroke. So a signature, so long as I can load enough ink on my pen, I would rather just go from beginning to end, whether that was how it was done originally or not. I like the flow of continuing going. It feels better to me. But the range can be very difficult. You have multiple capitals. It's hard to do them all in one fluid movement because you hit your lateral range. Jose, it's nice that you noticed that. That's something that you can iron out. It's good that you see that you can do it, or that you see that you do that, because now you can take the proper steps to stopping from doing that, I guess. It's very good to be able to identify our bad habits when it comes to this stuff, because most of it is muscle training. So if you can identify your bad habits without attaching a negative energy or a negative, not being too hard on yourself about them, then you can take the first steps in fixing them. Oh, that one would have been good if the shade was just higher. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have many people left who were able to train with the old guys. Let's see. After the first oval, I swerve a little on the way down. Yeah, so what's potentially happening, Jose? You're saying it's on your downstroke. On this part. If that part is swerving, then I would say, yeah, push pulls are the way to iron that out a little bit. Or just take a note of the speed that you happen to go, because swerving on a downstroke is a common thing because it's an easy place to swerve. For example, if you were doing like a lowercase p, like if you on this downstroke here, that p came out pretty nice. But on this downstroke here, it is pretty common to get, like, if you're gonna get a swerve somewhere, it's when we use those straight lines. So push pulls will help, and then just really, I guess, committing to the tempo that you can do a smooth pull downstroke. It's a similar thing on a lowercase p. We'll often see I go relatively slow on my downstrokes for the lowercase p, slower than I feel like I should, but it's because it's the way I can control that taper and get it exactly where I want, but I don't go terribly fast, because if I go too fast on that pull stroke, I will get, it will be not so much shaky, but it will deviate from a nice straight line on the right slant. So I have found sort of like a middle speed that is dependable to give me the shape I want, and it's slow enough that I can get, that I can taper into that shade nicely. But yeah, push pulls are essentially what would help a lot with that. But I would say instead of just push pulls, do like we do with the or with a capital O, where we do like 10 ovals and then write an O. Do that same thing. Do all the push pulls and then do like write a D maybe, with the main focus being on that downstroke, and then write a bunch of other push pulls and then do another one. So you're then putting that push pull muscle practice or push pull muscle training into practice right away, and then see if that creates a change as you're doing the capital D strokes, if they change over time, if you're managing to iron out that little swerve. Ooh. Another thing you can do is apply ever so slight compound curve. Like going from, you can see here, there's a slight compound curve, like PZ Blozer does it in his book. If there is an ever so slight compound curve, it takes out the exact straightness, and human anatomy will do a compound curve with movement smoother than it will do a straight line with movement smoother. That's just, I mean, I can speak specifically about myself, but I'm certain that that's just the way we work. A compound curve comes out of our body more natural than a straight line. So you could add a slight, when I say slight, I mean slight. You want it to look almost like a straight line, but if you think compound curve and do a straight line, that might be subtle enough just to trick your brain into doing a smooth curve instead of a straight line that looks like a straight line. If that made sense. A lot of this, it's tricking my brain. It's the, at what point in the letter do I think about what's next, or do I make a transition? And there are fun little tricks that'll be different for everybody, but that you can do and think about that for some reason or another change the way it comes out of our pen. Just because it's more, we're just relying on those triggers rather than slowly creating a form. It has to happen so quickly. Too pointy. That transition point. When I remember to bring this up vertical quick enough, I forget to make this compound curve more abrupt. So many things to remember how to do. It's like doing this. Oh, my paper moved. Oh, and I did that. Whoopsies. Making a mess. Ooh. Chill tunes today. I like them. Oh, well, I think, Marilyn, do you have some mint chocolate chip ice cream? Or does this urge require a trip to the grocery store? Ah! Too far left. Oh, you don't. Well, then you gotta ask yourself, how bad is this urge? How big is it? Do we give in to the urge? I probably would if it was me. I would go to the grocery store and get some mint chocolate chip ice cream. I gotta go grocery shopping tomorrow, and maybe I'll buy some mint chocolate chip ice cream. I haven't bought ice cream in a long time. Okay, that was too much of a compound curve on that one. All in good time, Ojaswini. All in good time. Oh yeah, I forget, it's late. Grocery stores aren't open. Right. Dedication. You want mint chocolate chip ice cream, you gotta work for it. Cheapers. Inconsistent. This might just be an entire late night live of me working on the capital D. And I'm not mad at it. It's potentially not the most exciting, which I apologize for, but... Alright, we also didn't look at... Let's grab Tamblin's book real quick here and see what variation of the D does he use in his book. Capital D from Tamblin. See, I'm not as much a fan of Tamblin's capital D. He has a very small little loop here, but again, same angle as PZ Blozer's. And then as we know, his D Hello, Rose. Welcome. His letters, he uses his round exit oval instead of a horizontal one quite often. Same thing, ever so slight compound curve, but pretty straight. Nice high shades. I prefer PZ Blozers, or technically those were Lupfer's engravings in PZ Blozer's book. Because I get this type of look relatively often with a tiny little loop and not a super high compound curve. Interesting. Oh, this is like a D and an E. That gives me a cool idea for a... Hold. That's a cool idea for a signature. Yeah, oh, I just noticed it and realized you guys are already talking about it. But that could totally be a cool signature. That's not how he was using it, but... Does that work? That's an ugly D, but... I think I would want to double shade it. Let's see. Nope. Scratch that. That doesn't work. Because that brings it too low. DE. Do I like that? I can't decide if I like that or not. That's better if that comes bigger. No sugar, just a lot of wet ink. Never actually added sugar. I've heard people do that, but I've never added sugar before. And I could be wrong about this, but I feel like sometimes that when the ink dries, it will stick a little bit when you have two pieces of paper connected, and it will cause them, and when I have stacks of paper like this is all the practice sheets I have to go through and see if there's anything worth saving in there. There might be some scattered around, some good forms or good things that I want to clip out of it, but I haven't gone through them. That's the past, I don't know, couple months of writing or something like that. Welcome back. The ants would have, and that too. Yeah, I've never done the sugar in ink before. I've heard people talk about it though, but not something I've tried. Ooh. It's artistic. About Donner's Majuscules? You mean in PZ Blozer's book? I mean, Donner's capitals are incredible. I always forget all the amazing, just these amazing examples in the back of this book. Where are Donner's? Donner's. There they are. Absolutely gorgeous. We'll put this this flat. And I will zoom out the camera. They're just so pretty. They're perfect. If you have not checked out the link is on the Discord. I went through all the scanned copies of the Business Educators and compiled all the full alphabets in that have ever been printed in or in this what's scanned of the Business Educators, anyways. And they're all in one PDF that have bookmarks so they have the names so you can find specific penmen. Jose, I don't think many people in general would understand that. DE as desperado in a signature. DE. I like that DE. I just don't know if I like it enough. I'm trying to think of a way that it can be better. It's an interesting idea, though. I really like Darner's D. Very similar to PZ Blozer's in this book. I think one of the things that makes this specific example of capitals so gorgeous, I just said beautiful, was what was about to come out of my mouth. Beautiful and gorgeous fused. But they are large. They're relatively large compared to, say, Lupfer's capitals that are here a couple pages earlier. Here's Lupfer's capitals. But if you compare the shade size, these ones are they're a little bit bigger. But like this shade on this O versus the shade on this, where's the O? The O, the shade is not much bigger on Darner's. His letters are much larger, but the ratio to his shades are much finer in relation to the size of his forms. And his ovals were extremely precise. This is the most beautiful ampersand of all of them, in my opinion. Unfortunately, a lot of people read it as a V, so I don't get to use it in a lot of designs and stuff that I do for leather plotters and whatnot, because it can look like a V very easily, even though the shade is on the opposite side. But it's just so pretty. If I had to pick one thing I didn't like about this set of capitals, it would be the exit oval he used on the H. And it's not because I dislike it on its own, it's gorgeous. I just think in relation with all of these other capitals, that narrow exit horizontal oval just doesn't fit in as much. If I had to pick something. I don't have to pick something, but if I had to. I don't think these are engraved. Darner's, I'm pretty sure, were photo engraved from his writing plates, I think. To me, they don't look hand engraved. Like Lupfer's, I'm pretty sure these are engraved. These are perfected forms, I think. Don't quote me on that. It's unfortunately impossible to tell. But sometimes you can get an idea. They could be from plates. I mean, they are from plates. They could be photo engraved, but I feel like this particular set might have been hand engraved before made into printing plates. Hard to tell, though. Unfortunately, it can be hard to tell. Maybe next week, Rose, will dedicate some attention to the capital E. I can't get out of capital D mode today. I still want to iron it out a little more. Dedicate some good work to it. Because it does feel like it's starting to get a little bit smoother. Maybe. Life is the art of drawing without an eraser. Yup. There is no edit undo in life. Whoa, that was very abrupt. But you can use invisible. Very true. You can indeed. It's so hard going through my late night live writing pages because half of them are invisible ink and I just always assume they're blank sheets of paper because I can't see all the stuff that we write after midnight on them. Focus, Mike, focus. Not super nice horizontal ovals today, which is weird. That shade is the right size. It just needs to be up higher. Whoops. Fraction of a second sooner. Ligatures are fun. It's fun to create them for signatures and whatnot. This compound curve into the shade is highly inconsistent. Ah. Yep, it's like a D with an E. I want that D and E to look good, but I don't know how to make it look good. Oh, unless this might look absolutely horrible, but I'm gonna try it anyways. How do I get the... Does that work over there? Does that look like a D, or does the D get lost if I do that? Oh, maybe I can... Ideas. That's cool. I like that a lot better. If I can just write it nicely. That's the idea. I need to see one thing over here. That versus definitely the first one. Okay. Be cool if this went right through there. Oh, I'm super distracted now. We're on a mission, folks. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. But in theory, that would look really cool. I don't think it can go through there. It gets tucked in too small. Neat. Something to think about if anybody has a name that has the initials E and D in them. No, can't go through there. It has to go farther to the right. Okay. Take out that possibility. Oops. It's supposed to be in there. It's kind of a neat idea, and pretty sure I haven't seen this before. It might exist out there, but if it does, I've never noticed it or I've never seen it. Ugly E, but that's the idea. Oh, I didn't see you say goodbye, David. Bye, David. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry, I wasn't keeping an eye on the chat. Okay, we just got to get the E looking like more like an E. Maybe it just needs to be a bit bigger. That's the idea. Enjoy your making tea. I don't know how much longer we're gonna be live. I think I'm gonna finish this page, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night. An early one today. I am quite tired from my long week, and I think early to bed for me today. Sorry, Ojaswini. Well, I'm definitely not staying up for the lunar eclipse. I will go to bed and wake up for the lunar eclipse. That's another reason I should go to bed early, so that I can wake up super early and watch it. Ooh, that was a good one. Those are 3 back-to-back not bad ones. Right on. Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly unusual for me to be awake until the time that we would have the lunar eclipse, but not today. I don't think I last that long. I am a bit worn out. Whoa! Wackadoodle shade. I was writing too far to the right. Better. Whoa, space. Yay, friends made through Late Night Live. Right on. Not today. Sorry. Whose birthday's coming up? Is it your birthday, Rose, coming up? My birthday's coming up. But not till Thursday. We got 2 whole days. That was a good one. Let's try to make some bigger ones. We'll do what Darner did. We'll try to make some big ones with small shades. See if we can do that. Oops. That's very big. Feels weird to write capitals that large. Oh, is that the Friends reunion is on Friday, right? 28th? I'm looking forward to that. I wasn't like a huge Friends fan. What's a great show. And the clips from the reunion look fun. Oopsies. Whoa. Whoa, what is happening? Going down the drain. Oh, it comes on the 27th. Oh, well, the Friends reunion episode is my birthday. There we go. There we go, back on track. Oh, hey, Mar. Yeah, of course. Today I'm using Blots Iron Gall ink. It is, I believe, the most corrosive and aggressive of all of the Iron Gall inks, but it gives a really nice hairline. A new bottle of Blots will go down sometimes close to clear, and then it dries to a really solid black. You can see it, like, even when I write, it's much lighter than when it dries fully black, but when I write, it's much lighter than that. It's like a gray. It's interesting, on some papers it won't go black, it'll stay a gray, but most papers it oxidizes and it turns fully black. Yep, still using my Blots Iron Gall. I have my walnut on my desk, but I've been enjoying using Iron Gall today. And this nib is taking a beating, but it's still working. Yeah, the clearest ink, or the ink that writes the clearest I think that I've ever used is, aside from my clear ink, my invisible ink is, I think Chris Yoke of the Yoke Pen Company sells Arnold's writing fluid, and that ink, you can hardly see it when you write. It goes on really clear, and then as it dries, just like this ink, it oxidizes to a deep black. It's interesting. What colored inks? I really don't use a lot of colored inks. If you want to get into the colored ink world, I would recommend getting a knack for mixing gouache. Yeah, I would experiment with mixing gouache to the right consistency. I don't use gouache a lot just because I don't mix it often enough to make it easy to get the right consistency for writing. So when I do use it, I like it, but it takes me a while to get it writing the way I want it to, longer than it probably should. But if you can get used to mixing gouache, then you can pretty much have any color, because you can mix the gouaches to get any color you want, if you can get it to flow nice. If you want pre-mixed inks, like Just When He says Fox and Quill ink is really good. if you live like Posaka ink in Thailand is pretty good. They're colored iron galls. Yeah, there are quite a bit. Walnut is the best for practice. Vermilion Sumi is really bright, but everybody loves it so much. It's probably one of the most common ones. Yeah, I would say if you want to play with color, experiment with gouaches because they're cost effective, and you can mix them and easily dilute them. Yeah, I don't use them a lot, but I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people really like them. So that's what I would recommend. And then you don't have to buy. You can try the other inks, but I mean, bottles of ink and stuff in different colors and all the iron galls can be a little expensive, maybe depending on shipping. Yeah, the Pelican inks are good. I don't usually use a lot of fountain pen inks for writing. I find them very thin, but you can add gum arabic to them if you want, which can work very well. It's just not something I have a lot of experience with, so I can't speak on it too much. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this was fun. I did not expect. Oh, cracked my shoulder. I did not expect to work on the capital D all night, but I'm glad I did because I had a good time with it. Obviously, the capital Ds I'm writing now are not all perfect, but they feel a little bit better. Yeah, this was fun. I look forward to getting back to the Discord. Thank you all of you who are in the chat who've been on the Discord, keeping it alive while I've been sort of MIA for the past little bit. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always. Make sure that you are falling in love with the process. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. Bye, everyone.